Welcome back, my friends. Today I want to talk about Healthcare 2.0, or at least my vision of Healthcare 2.0. And I want to speak specifically to those of you who kind of buy this lie that you have to have it all sorted out before you can help anyone else. I fell into this trap for a really long time as a physio. I remember thinking, right, like, I'm a physio and I have back pain. What a fraud. Most practitioners secretly believe that their own struggles disqualify them from helping others. So they hide their fatigue, their anxiety, their own health issues, because they think that being professional means looking the part, right? Me, the physio with back pain, that means I'm not very good as a physio. But it's a human experience to experience pain. It's a human experience to deal with challenge, stress, anxiety. We don't learn best from the guru. We learn best from the person who's 1 or 2 steps ahead of us. I would really, and ask this question to yourself, but who would you rather learn from? Someone who's walking the same path as you, or a so-called expert who's already at the mountaintop, who has all the credentials after their name, but probably hasn't lived the experience? We've been taught that credentials equal authority. And this Healthcare 2.0 that I'm envisioning, and that I'm really attempting to start building with our practitioner program, is that experience equals authority, not credentials. It's not the letters after your name that matter as much as, like, are you walking the talk? Do you have skin in the game? Do you have lived experience that you can teach from? This idea that to help others, you have to be perfect, to be healed, to be sorted. What if that's backwards? So I'm going to call out the practitioners amongst us and the individuals that deal with symptoms, stress, burnout, anxiety, and find yourself telling yourself some version of this. Like, I need to get my shit together before I could help anyone else. Who am I, the person who's struggling with anxiety, to go out and teach others? So what does that cause us to do? We put on this professional front. We bury the struggle. We disconnect from the lived experience that actually positions us better to help those that we want to help. We keep showing up with a smile, hoping that no one notices that we're falling apart inside. There's this like massive incongruence between, like, you know, the stuff that I'm kind of trying to teach to someone else and perhaps the struggles that I'm trying to pretend aren't there. This kind of front, it protects our identity. I'm the physio. I can treat all the people. Like, the back pain is a sign that I'm not a good physio. The anxiety for the therapist is a sign that I'm not a good therapist. But actually, it greatly amplifies our ability to connect with those that we want to help. I want to give a really clear example here. Imagine you're a mother, postpartum, struggling with anxiety. Who would you rather learn from? Like, do you want to go see the old white male doctor who read about postpartum anxiety in a textbook? Or do you want to go to another mom who lived through postpartum anxiety, who navigated it, who found a path forward and now has a solution? That is a really clear example, and I see this time and time again. Right? We have a huge amount of mothers that come into our practitioner program who had really terrible experiences postpartum and now want to go on to coach other mothers. Why? Because they don't want them to have to go through the pain that they went through. I want to just side note for a little minute here. Something really interesting happens when we shift from solving our problem to contribution. The struggles that I've gone through have now positioned me in a way that I can help others. And when I begin to focus on that and pursue that, something magical happens with my nervous system, my symptoms, my struggles. Again, I've seen this time and time again where it's like, that is the final step. People have done all this work and they've come so far and there's just something holding back. And the moment they stop trying to fix themselves and they start trying to support and help others, not go through what they went through, is this final kind of piece, this little unlock. When we really think about this, right, credentials versus experience as the determinant of authority, experience builds trust. If I'm someone with chronic pain and I'm listening to you as someone who's also struggled with chronic pain, I know you know my struggles. I know you know walking in my shoes. Whereas again, most chronic pain specialists, right, don't have chronic pain. And the idea that the chronic pain disqualifies you from working with others, when we have practitioners that come through our program that are coming in with chronic pain and they solve that chronic pain, right? They unlock, they make the changes for their nervous system, the support, right? And their pain goes away. They are the best damn person in the world to work with other people with chronic pain. Yet they may not have the credentials, but they have the lived experience. And that, in my books, is what builds the authority. So this kind of healthcare 2.0, imagine that we first help people solve their problem and then equip them with the tools to help others. So it's kind of like learning from the person who's one step ahead and teaching the person that's one step behind. Rather than the healthcare system that we have now is this massive hierarchy. It's disempowering by nature, right? The guy in the white lab coat, the position of authority, tells you what to do, right? Here's the prescription. Healthcare 2.0 is built on resonance, relatability, lived authority, right? I'm learning from you because you're walking the same path as me. You're closer to the destination, you're ahead, and so you can actually support me along the way. And so, I mean, I wish I could articulate this the right way, but it's such an interesting thing. When we stop pretending we're perfect and putting on the identity, the construct, the professional version of ourselves, and we start to share with vulnerability and connection and let me use my experience to support others along the way, it's a really, really beautiful shift. And the crazy thing is that when we do that, again, it allows people to take the pain that they're experiencing and transmute that into a passion, into a purpose. That is a really, really powerful thing. This version of healthcare that isn't, I see the most specialized person who actually is probably really far away from the problem, and I actually work with the person who's just one step ahead of me. I can't remember where I heard this example, but something was pointed out where like the professors that are teaching business school at these universities have never started a business. And then people going out and actually learning from entrepreneurs and business owners and those that are in the game rather than learning about the game. Healthcare is the exact same, where it's like we have a lot of these specializations where they've studied the most, they've done the most research, they've like gotten into the books the deepest. But oftentimes that means they've done less clinical time. They've spent less time with the people that have the problem, and more often than not, they have no lived experience of the problem themselves. So the person teaching in business school that's never started a business, wouldn't you rather the entrepreneur that started 5 businesses, that has skin in the game, that is walking the talk? I want to see that same shift in healthcare. And I think where that starts is people dropping the professional facade and sharing the fact that, hey, I'm a human that has these struggles too, and here's what really works for me. Or here are the things that I found that made a massive difference. I think when we shift to that version of healthcare, we redevelop the sense of connection, of collaboration, of trust, of safety. We completely change the environment in which someone is trying to heal. And that is a huge driver. The amount of people who have anxiety about seeing the doctor or the specialist because they have no idea what's going on, right? Oh, what's going to come back with my blood labs and what's going to happen? I'm just going to get given a different prescription. I don't really know how they work and I have no understanding of my condition or my pathology. It's this breeding ground for anxiety and uncertainty, right? Going and see the person who's dealt with the exact problem I'm dealing with, and we can speak in the same language as 2 humans connecting over a shared pain and a shared challenge. And like, you're going to teach me the stuff that you've been doing. It's like completely different environment. So I'd love you to consider what version 2.0 of healthcare looks like for you. For me, it really looks like this. We're not relying on the guru or the savior, right? We're relying on the guy that's walking a few steps ahead of us. Like, we don't need more specialized professionals with a bunch of letters after their names, right? We need more humans showing up as real humans who struggle with real human problems and perhaps have worked out a couple of unlocks. That is how we change the model, is away from this kind of hierarchical fix people to this collaborative, like walking alongside them, showing them the way. So your challenges, your issues, your shortcomings, symptoms, your labels, your diagnosis, your disorders, whatever word you want to use, they don't disqualify you from helping other people. I would actually argue, and the shift that I would encourage you to make is that they qualify you. They actually give you more authority. They give you lived experience. They give you resonance. Your pain gives you perspective. Your anxiety has forced you to develop certain tools that could be a huge unlock for someone else. Your experience gives you empathy. And empathy goes a long way. Understanding goes a long way. A felt sense. You see me, you hear me, you know what I'm going through, goes a really long way. And I think that's one of the biggest missing pieces in healthcare today, is the person who's going through the problem is working with the person who has very little experiential understanding of the problem, has read a lot of textbooks about it, but doesn't know what the lived experience is. And that level of disconnection creates a gap, and that gap makes it really hard for progress to occur. So, if you're sitting on the sidelines because you think you're not ready, here's your permission slip. You don't need to have it all worked out. You don't need to be the picture of perfect health. You need to be real, you need to be present, you need to be honest. And I think that's how we build the future of health, one lived experience at a time.